All right, we might get started, everyone. Welcome, good evening to members and guests, and welcome to Brighter Super's Planning Your Brighter Retirement. I'm delighted that we have people both here in the room and also a couple of hundred online. So the gold class seats are online. You've probably got your glass of wine and cheese and crackers, so that's the way to join us. And welcome to this evening's event. It's fantastic. Everyone online and here in the room can take time out of your day to hear about what's been happening to your superannuation fund and how you can prepare for your retirement. My name's David Koch. I'm absolutely delighted to be here today with Brighter Super. I'll be your host for tonight's Planning Your Brighter Retirement seminar, but more about me a little later on. Just to give you a bit of a rundown on what's ahead of us, today's presentation will run for about an hour and a half. First up, we'll hear from Sean Martini, Brighter Super's Chief Commercial Officer, who will highlight recent initiatives that are helping to make the Brighter Fund stronger and more rewarding for all of its members. We'll then hear from Peter Hoban, who will be sharing strategies about preparing for your retirement. So you've got pad and paper there with a pen. Pete is full of great information. If you're wondering about how to plan for your retirement, every question I reckon Pete has an answer for, so take advantage of him tonight. He's got plenty of strategies to share. And then we're going to hear from a bloke who, I'm not sure in this environment you'd really want his job, the Chief Investment Officer of Brighter Super, Mark Ryder. How volatile is the world today and investment markets? He's the guy that's got to cope with it, and he's doing a pretty good job from all of the superannuation league tables that come out to see Brighter right at the top in terms of performance. This is the bloke behind it. He's going to update you on recent investment performance and provide an outlook for markets over the coming months. So he's polishing his crystal ball and going to gaze into it and see what's ahead of us. Most importantly, I reckon the best part of the session is plenty of time to take your burning questions. Now, when the Q&A session begins, those of you in the room who have a question, just raise your hand and one of our staff will run a microphone to you. In the interest of time, we'll only be taking pre-submitted questions and questions from the floor. So if you've got live ones from the floor, terrific. Plenty of time for that. For those online watching us, down the bottom of your screen there is a little area called the Q&A tool. If you've got any questions, put it in that little box there. It will come to Brighter staff here in the room and they'll go through them and we'll try and get through as many questions as we possibly can tonight. So we've got moderators online waiting for your questions, so add them now. Whether you're online or in the room today, we value your feedback. If you're in the room, please don't forget to complete the feedback form on your table. If you prefer to do it electronically, QR codes are in plague proportions at the moment. Before the pandemic, who thought a QR code was the greatest waste of technology space on earth? And then we all became inducted into it and we can't get away from them. So if you'd like to do it electronically, there's a QR code on the top of the form. For those online, you can navigate to the feedback form by selecting the icon from the toolbar. The survey will include the opportunity to leave your details if you want to be contacted by a member of the Brighter team. We also have several of the Brighter team and their financial advisors in the room today as well, who will be available after the presentation if you want to talk to them privately, so take advantage of that. All right, let's kick things off. Busy hour and a half ahead, some terrific presentations and also plenty of time for question and answer. So would you welcome to the stage Sean Martini to welcome.
Well, thank you, David, and good evening, members and guests, and to our members online. I'd like to acknowledge and thank David for joining us today. We've been working with David to enhance our member proposition, particularly around things like financial literacy, education and advice to help all our members grow their super and enjoy a brighter retirement. You can see more of David on our website, in newsletter articles and at events just like this. As David mentioned today, you'll hear his presentation on 5 ways to retire well, including some of his key tips and tricks. And our members have been very positive about our arrangement with David, and we're really looking forward to working with him and continuing to build our member knowledge and confidence so that you can have a terrific retirement. Now, before we start today's presentation, I'd like to acknowledge, Bryce Super acknowledges the traditional owners of the lands we meet on today, and we pay our respect to elders past and present. We are proud to serve Queensland's 17 Indigenous councils, and we strive to provide positive outcomes for members who identify as Aboriginal and/or Torres Strait Islander. And I'd also like to let you know that this presentation contains general advice. It is being prepared without taking into account your individual objectives, financial situations or needs. And we'll be talking about the fund's performance, particularly Mark, later in this session. And it's important to note that past performance is not an indicator of future performance, and you shouldn't rely on the information alone as a sole or primary source of advice or guidance for the purpose of making decisions about your superannuation options. Now, I'd like to give you a bit of an update around what's happened with the fund over the past, or so far this year. And at the beginning of this year, we started well. We were able to significantly reduce fees, or the administration fees in particular, for all members, which really reinforces our commitments to helping you grow your retirement savings. And it's the 3rd year in a row that we've been able to reduce our the administration fees that are charged. And since the completion of the mergers, the reduction is about 40% since 2022. And our fees are now actually lower than the majority of the largest super funds in the country. And so what you can expect or see from the changes that we've made is that our percentage-based administration fee reduced from 0.18% down to 0.14% of your account balance, which means that more of the contributions that are going into your account will be directly invested to generate a better return for your retirement. And so as an example, the fee for a member with a $250,000 account balance has reduced down to $350 per year from its previous amount of $450, which is quite a significant saving. We also reduced the annual fee cap on our percentage-based administration fees, which reduced from $900 per annum down to $650. So what this means that, in effect, as your account balance grows, the smaller the proportion of administration fees that you'll be paying. And it really reflects our dedication to keeping fees as low as possible to you, our members. We also lowered the cost paid from reserves down from 0.03% to 0.01%. These fees aren't deducted directly from your account. They are paid from the fund reserves, but it does reflect really our focus on making sure that we're only spending money in areas that really matter and matter to you. And finally, we have introduced a partner linking feature. And what that does, it allows you to link your superannuation account with your spouse or your partner, and effectively will take into account both your superannuation balances when assessing it towards the administration fee cap, which means that you potentially, between yourself and your partner, the maximum administration fee that we'll charge is $650 per annum. So to link your account with your partner, there's a form available on our website under the resource tab. And also, it's a good reminder to also let you know that you can take advantage of our family and friends offer, which, if eligible, you can receive a $100 voucher if you refer someone to join the fund, and you can access a personal referral code by logging into your account on Member Online. Now, to support these changes, we did bring in a small account keeping fee of 50 cents per week. As your balance grows, though, the account keeping fee will become a smaller proportion of your total assets. And with Brighter Super, we are a 100% member-owned, not-for-profit fund. We only charge fees that we need to run the fund and provide services to you, our members. These latest admin fee reductions are part of our vision of being brighter together and ensure all members benefit from the recent mergers while maximising your retirement savings. And I'm also pleased to let you know that you'll also hear from Peter shortly We've just announced some great news around our new advice offers, or a new advice offering, and that includes the removal of a $330 fee for a retirement health check, and that is now included as part of your membership with Brighter Super. We recently partnered with global industry research firm Investment Trends, where they surveyed both pre-retirees and retirees on retirement confidence. The survey completed by over 5,000 Australian adults aged over 40 highlighted the critical role superannuation plays in securing financial futures and the positive impact of financial advice on retirement outcomes. Another key finding from the survey, which is also regularly mentioned when we have conversations with many of our members, is that travel remains a high priority. In fact, 43% of pre-retirees are looking forward to travelling within the first 6 months after retirement. And thanks to our group insurer, Zurich, we've put in place a special offer for our members where you can access exclusive travel insurance discount through Covermore. And Covermore is the largest travel insurance provider in the country. So we want all our members to be able to retire with confidence. So whether you're already retired or soon to be, we're excited to provide you with a 20% discount on your travel insurance just by being a member. And for more information and to access the discount, simply go to the Covermore's website, which is covermore.com.au, and use the code BRIGHTER20. And finally, whilst we're not in this for the awards and the accolades, we wanted to share some of our most recent industry recognitions to provide you with assurance and confidence that your super fund is acting in your best interest. And I'm proud to announce that we won the SuperRatings Member Education Award, and this recognition highlights the quality and the accessibility of our educational offerings, which empower you, our members, to make more informed financial decisions about your superannuation. And our education services include seminars such as this one this evening, interactive webinars, and we have 2 tomorrow, education articles and videos, online tools and tutorials, and we also have a team of over 40 super specialists dedicated to helping you grow your super and retire with confidence, and we do have a number of them here this evening that you can speak to after the event. I was also absolutely thrilled last week, or a couple of weeks ago, we were one of just 6 super funds in the country to be recognised with the Epic Retirement Tick. And what that really emphasises is that we are one of the leading superannuation funds supporting Australians through both pre-retirement, transitioning to retirement and post-retirement. Some of our other most recent accolades include Canstar's Outstanding Value Account-Based Pension Award, and the account-based pension, which you'll hear a little bit later, ultimately pays you an income stream in retirement. We also received the Platinum rating from SuperRatings, which is their highest possible rating for our accumulation and pension products for the 16th year in a row, and on our MySuper investment option for the 11th consecutive year. And we also won Money Magazine's Best Growth Pension Product and Best Cash Super Product awards in 2025. But I'll leave it at that, and I'll now hand over Peter Hoban, who will discuss strategies around how to help you prepare for a brighter retirement.
Excellent. Thanks so much, Sean. And Sean and the team really have done great work, particularly around that reduction of the fees. I'm a Brighter Super member, and at the end of the financial year, I normally do a bit of a review of my electricity, my insurance, my gas, my water, my internet, everything like that. Do you know what the only thing that went down last year was? My superannuation fees. So, Sean, as a member, I would like to thank you for that. Folks, my name's Peter Hoban. I'm one of the member account managers at Brighter Super. So a big part of my role is actually being out on the ground, talking to members and helping them plan their brighter retirement. And when we've put this presentation together, what we've tried to do is incorporate the questions that we get from members when we're out on the field and some of the pre-submitted questions. We had about 67 questions pre-submitted before the start of this presentation. So we've tried to cover as much as we can in the presentation, but again, for our members online or anyone in the room, we will be having a Q&A session. I also just want to reiterate what Sean said about this presentation being general information. It is really important that if you are going to be acting on your super, and if you think about the tens or hundreds of thousands of dollars that you've got in your superannuation account, if you're going to be acting on advice, you want to make sure that the person who is giving you that advice knows enough about your personal situation to be able to give it. So it's not just a throwaway line when we say, please consider your personal circumstances. It is really important that you do seek proper qualified advice. The great news for you is that Brighter Super can provide that advice. So tonight we're going to be taking a bit of a high-level look, several topics, like we can see. I mentioned those questions that we got. Probably most of the questions that we had pre-submitted was, how much do I need to retire? So we're going to be having a look at that. We're going to be exploring, how can I get there? What are some steps that I can take to build my superannuation? We'll have a bit of a discussion about accessing your superannuation, at what age you can access it, and how can you access it? Should you be taking lump sum withdrawals? Should you be setting up a pension account? And then we'll also talk about the steps that you can take now. Because just the fact that you've shown up here tonight, probably after a long day of work, you've turned up here on a Thursday night, wanting to learn about superannuation. I'll try and do as much as I can in this presentation to show you the steps that you can take now. So how much is enough? That is the question that all of us who are out talking to members are asked many times on a daily basis. And the simple answer to that is, well, what does retirement look like for you? You know, for everyone in this room, their idea of the perfect retirement is going to be different. Even if you're speaking to your friends and your family or your colleagues, taking a look around this room, everybody wants something different out of retirement. And it is never too early to start planning, to start thinking about, what does retirement look like for me? The earlier you start, the earlier we can then figure out how much it is that you might need. Sometimes it's a bit of a flippant answer when people say, how much do I need for retirement? And my go-to answer is, well, how much are you going to spend? Because once we know how much it is that you're going to be spending, that's when you can start working backwards to figure out, okay, well, to generate this amount of income for this many years, this is the balance that you may need. But for those who, I guess, haven't been doing that planning, don't have much of a budget, there are some guidelines out there. There is an organisation called ASFA, the Association of Super Funds of Australia. In fact, you've got your notepads there, folks, and your retirement guides in front of you. That is definitely a word I recommend that you jot down, ASFA. And when you get home, have a look at the ASFA retirement standards. This is an organisation that surveys retirees every 3 months, so they update it regularly. But they survey retirees who have retired, who do own their own home, and they ask them how much it is that they're spending. And they break it down into what we can see here, a modest and a comfortable retirement. Now, when I am talking to members and they're talking about their retirement, nobody really says to me, Pete, I'm looking to have a modest retirement. Most people start saying to me, you know, I want to be comfortable. I want to maintain my lifestyle. I want to maintain my independence. I want to maintain my dignity into retirement. And so the figure that ASFA has come up that they've just released at the moment for a couple, say for the comfortable retirement, about $75,000 a year, $1,500 a week. Now, an important point about superannuation is once you're over age 60, anything you take from your super is tax-free. So if you're self-funding there in your retirement, that's not having to pay any tax on the money that you're taking from superannuation. This is for someone who owns their own home. When I was looking through the pre-submitted questions, one that we had is, what about people who don't own their home in retirement? Someone who's renting in retirement. For a modest lifestyle, for a couple who do not own their home in retirement, the figure that's been released, $66,000 a year. So that's actually, you know, creeping up closer to that comfortable than it is for the modest. What does a comfortable lifestyle look like? It's probably more being able to eat out at your restaurants. You know, the modest is probably having to have your takeaways. Definitely no fine dining, eating out regularly. Whereas a comfortable lifestyle, maybe, you know, 2 or 3 times a week you're able to eat out. As far as holidays, you know, if you are on that modest lifestyle, holidays most probably have to be closer to home. Definitely none of those big overseas trips where you're disappearing for a couple of months at a time. Health insurance, something that people always talk to me about. With that modest, you might be able to maintain a basic level of private healthcare, whereas with that comfortable figure, depending on who it is you're with and how good you are at looking for your deals, mid to high level health insurance. We can see there, it's about $25,000 a year difference between the modest and the comfortable. $500 a week, tax-free, every week for the rest of your life, that really does make a big difference to your lifestyle. So how much might we need to generate that income? Well, the figures we can see here, these are actually for people who are retiring at age 60. The as for figures work off someone retiring at age 65, but quite often when we're talking to people, they're aware of what their preservation age is, when they can retire. Most people seem to start their retirement planning around age 60. And we can see again, for that modest amount, not quite as much as some of those figures that you see bandied around in the media. In fact, the comfortable retirement, 500-odd thousand for a couple, for a single, 660-odd thousand for a couple. Because once you get to age 67, which is the pension age for a lot of people in Australia, you may still be eligible for some sort of part pension. So you'd be funding your retirement with a mix of maybe your superannuation and the age pension. The premium retirement figure, that's a Brighter Super figure that we've used for some of our seminars. That's $80,000 a year for a single and $100,000 for a couple. So that's where we can see it getting up a bit more above that $1 million mark, a common figure that you hear bandied about. So Sean did mention about the advice service, and I can definitely say I talk to hundreds of members a year about their retirement. And what really makes a difference for people between a good and a really great retirement is receiving the right advice. And I know Kate, the board, pretty much everyone in the fund is quite passionate about making sure our members have access to that advice. So we have rejigged our advice offerings over the last few months. And what we're offering now is what we call our super advice as part of someone's membership. So I'm going to be talking about contributions and how contributions can make a difference to your balance. Advice around contributions, that's included in your membership with Brighter Super. Mark's going to be talking about the investment environment. Advice around your investment options, that's part of your membership. That question, do I have enough and how much will I be able to generate? We offer what's called a retirement health check. So that's actually done with a financial planner, a financial advisor, done over the phone, and that's where they're going to crunch the numbers, have a look at your balance, have a look at your time frame, the lifestyle that you're expecting, and they'll give you a written report letting you know what sort of income you might be able to generate and how long that might last. Used to be a cost for that. We've reduced that. We've got rid of that, eliminated it. You can now have one of these retirement health checks with an advisor as part of your membership with Brighter Super. In fact, if you are wanting to book in for one of those tonight, we're going to have a station set up over to the side of the room. We've got access to the advisors' calendars. We can book you in for a retirement health check tonight. We've also rejigged our retirement advice. So things like, say, transitioning to retirement, recontribution strategies, determining potential Centrelink benefits. That more comprehensive advice starts at about $990. It may be more, depending on the type of advice that you get, but we've really done everything that we can to make that advice more accessible to our members. We've also partnered with an external advisor, Financial Advice Matters. So if you have really quite complex finances, maybe you've got income or assets outside of superannuation, extended insurance, we can actually put you in touch with a partner for that more comprehensive financial advice. But folks, I can say without a shadow of a doubt, when I'm talking to members, and I've been with the fund for a long time, I see a lot of familiar faces in the room. The difference between people having a good retirement and a great retirement undoubtedly is getting the right advice. Sometimes, though, people don't feel like they want to start that conversation with an advisor straight away. If you prefer to maybe take some of these steps yourself at the beginning, one of the great tools that we have on our website is our retirement income calculator. So you'll find that on our website. You don't need to log in for that one. It's just up in the top right-hand corner, underneath the resources tab, and this is where you can put in your age, your balance at the moment, the contributions that you're making, the age that you're looking at retiring at. and it can give you a bit of an idea about what sort of income you might be able to generate. A good thing about this retirement income calculator is you can change some of the settings. What if I make extra contributions? What if I work a bit longer? What if I retire a bit earlier? What if I want to take more as a pension account? You can kind of play around with those settings and get an idea of what it is that you might be able to access. A great starting point. Personally, if I was within maybe about 5 years of retirement or starting to think about retirement, I would be going for the retirement health check, particularly it's part of your membership. Another great tool that we've actually introduced on our website is the What Age Can I Retire calculator. So this is a brand new calculator. If you have used our retirement income calculator before, give this one a go. This one is where you can actually put in some of your outside assets as well. A bit more information. It takes a little bit longer to fill out. This one's about 10 minutes, but it can give you a bit of an idea of at what age, how long it might be until you can actually retire and generate the income that you're wanting. This one you can actually do when you have logged onto your member online. So you can log on, do this What Age Can I Retire calculation, and it'll actually save those details for you. It'll be displayed there on your member online. It'll also be on your annual statement. When you receive your annual statement, if you've done this quiz, it'll have it there as a bit of a reminder. So it's something that you can go back to and see how you're tracking. Two of the great resources on our website, the Retirement Income Calculator and the What Age Can I Retire calculator. So now I've got a bit of an idea of what we need to think about if we're planning our retirement. And it was a bit of a shock for me when I had a birthday not long ago and realised that retirement was closer than it was further away. And it really got me thinking, how can I get there? I kind of visualised my retirement. Actually, when I did the sums, I was probably going to fall a little bit short. I've got some pretty big plans, but I was probably going to fall a little bit short. So it was really good for me to actually review my current contributions and have a look at how I could maximise those. Now, for a lot of people in the room, you might already know this. Some of this is quite common knowledge, but caps are always changing. Legislation is always changing. If it is something you know, please bear with us, because for a lot of people, this is new information. So there are caps, limits on the amount that you can get into superannuation. Sounds a bit crazy. You'd think that the government would want you to get as much as possible into your super so that they don't have to give you as much age pension. But for things like, say, salary sacrifice, they're missing out on tax revenue. You're reducing your taxable income. So there are caps on how much you can put into super. The one that most people are familiar with is their concessional contribution cap. And this is $30,000 per year. Really important to note that concessional contribution cap, it's made up of employer contributions, salary sacrifice contributions, and what they call tax-deductible contributions. If you weren't aware that you could potentially make a contribution into super and claim a tax deduction for us, you definitely want to have a chat to us. But an important point there, employer contributions. I know a lot of people in this room do get higher than the superannuation guarantee contributions by their employer. So it's really important to keep track of that $30,000 cap. You can check that on your member online. If you log on, down the bottom, it'll show your contributions for the financial year today. But the other type of contributions people can make are what they call non-concessional or after-tax contributions. So these are generally contributions that come from outside your employment save. People usually contribute them from their bank account. Maybe they've sold an investment asset or they've received an inheritance. They've come into some funds. It might be money left over after they've received their pay. And they make a voluntary contribution into super. At the moment, the cap for most people on that is $120,000 per financial year. People may be able to use what they call a bring forward rule. So you can potentially bring up to 3 years worth of contributions into the 1 year and then say nothing for the 2 years after that. People can make these after-tax contributions generally up to about age 75, but if your balance is getting up there, if it is getting higher or you are getting closer to that age 75, talking to the fund about the contribution is definitely something you would want to do. But salary sacrifice, I mentioned that in that concessional contribution slide there. What is salary sacrifice? Basically, salary sacrifice is sending your super contribution to the fund out of your pay before your employer calculates how much tax you have to pay. So you're essentially reducing your taxable income. It's pretty much like claiming a tax deduction every time you get paid, because the funds come to us first, then they calculate how much tax you have to pay. Why might that be a benefit, you say? Well, we've got marginal tax rates in Australia. We all know that. The more you earn, the more you pay. But as an example, we've got someone here, say on that medium tax bracket, 45,000 to 135,000. Their marginal tax rate is 30 cents in the dollar. They pay 30 cents in the dollar to the ATO before they receive it. And there's the Medicare levy as well. Don't forget that, an extra 2%. So 32% of the funds go to the government, and you get what's left over. If people salary sacrifice, they're sending it to us first before that tax is withheld. Now, you do have to pay a little bit of tax for the for the benefit of doing salary sacrifice, but it's only 15%. So you've got money, say someone in this situation here, 45,000 to 135,000. You could be taxed at 32 cents in the dollar, then send your money to superannuation, or you could send it to super and you're only charged 15% tax. Now, there are some cases, I have to say, where salary sacrifice is not the right choice for someone. That's why getting the right advice really is important. But generally speaking, an advice I use for people is, we'll ignore that 2% Medicare levy. Just say someone's got $5,000 that they're thinking about contributing. You do it as an after-tax contribution, that $5,000 is being taxed at 30%. You lose $1,500 of it. You do it as salary sacrifice, that $5,000 is only taxed at 15%. So you're only paying $750 tax. $750 less. Where does that other $750 go? To your super account. Now, I really do want to stress, I'm not telling everyone to rush out and start salary sacrificing. Everyone's situation, like I say, if you're on a decent salary and you're receiving higher contributions, you might not have a lot of that $30,000 to do salary sacrifice contributions. I'm just wanting people to be aware that there are lots of different ways to get money into your superannuation to give it a bit of a boost. In fact, we've got a bit of a case study here. We've got Tina, age 55, $75,000 a year. She's receiving the super guarantee contributions. It's up to 12% now, and she's got a balance of about $200,000. Kids have moved out, she's paid off the mortgage, she's got a bit of spare cash, so she's looking to make some contributions into super, about $100 a week. So if she didn't, she would probably, the way she was going with her super guarantee contributions, get to just over $300,000, about $308,000. However, if she decided to salary sacrifice that $100 a week, probably reduce her take-home pay by about $65, she'd end up with about $335,000, nearly $30,000 extra. And that's enough to pay for one of those nice big-ticket overseas holidays when you do retire. Extra super, nearly $27,000, and she saved over $4,400 in tax by doing it. That tax that she saved, she could potentially also actually contribute that into superannuation. Have you heard people say, I started doing extra salary sacrifice, I was able to get extra in with no drop in my take-home pay? This is the type of thing that you want to explore, that you want to talk about. You know how I was mentioning Brighter Super offers you contributions advice as part of your membership. This is exactly what I'm talking about, getting into these type of strategies. And salary sacrifice and after-tax contributions aren't the only way to get money into superannuation. We can see a bunch up here. Spouse contributions. If your spouse is earning under a certain amount, may be able to make a contribution into their account and you get a tax offset. An offset, not just a deduction, a straight offset off your tax. The bring forward contribution we mentioned with those after-tax contributions. The government co-contribution, a carry-forward contribution. Some people may not be aware of this, but if your balance is under $500,000 and you haven't been hitting that concessional contribution cap, you can actually carry over the unused contributions into the next year. In fact, you can carry them over for up to 5 years. So if your balance is under $500,000 and you haven't been hitting those concessional contribution caps, you may actually have a concessional contribution cap in excess of $30,000. In fact, if you do want to check that, I know because we had a question about this pre-submitted. If you think this may apply to you, log on to the ATO portal in MyGov. They've actually got great information about your super on the ATO portal. You won't hear me say that about the ATO a lot, but when it comes to superannuation, great information on their website, and you can actually see what your individual carry forward allowance is if you think you're qualifying there. And then if you do want to take advantage of that, have a chat to Brighter Super. It's part of your membership. One I do want to hit on though is the downsizer contribution. We get a lot of questions about that. That's basically if you are making a contribution to Super and the funds are from the sale of your family home, you can potentially contribute up to $300,000 per person into your Super, on top of the potentially $360,000 non-concessional contributions. It's a completely separate contribution. There are definitely some rules around it. You need to have owned that home or lived in that home for at least 10 years. You need to contribute it within a certain amount of time from settlement. But if you think about that, if people are downsizing, you don't have to downsize. It can just be selling your principal place of residence. The potential for a couple to get more than $1.3 million into Super in one go if they've got those funds. So folks, what I guess I'm trying to say is there are so many ways to get money into your superannuation to really help you get to those figures that you might need to generate the income you're looking for. Who can help you figure out the best way to get those contributions into your superannuation fund? Brighter Super can, and it's part of your membership. Probably the number 2 question that we get when we're out on the road is, when can I retire? And well, in Australia, you can retire whenever you like. There's actually no retirement age. There's an age pension age, but there's no retirement age. If you feel you've got the funds and you can support yourself, you can actually retire whenever you like. But when it comes to your superannuation, there is what they call your preservation age. Your funds are preserved until you hit this age. And for most people now, the preservation age is age 60. Anyone born after the 1st of July 1964, your preservation age is age 60. But as I mentioned before, there's a really good connection there because it's after age 60, anything you take from your super is tax-free. Doesn't matter if you're taking it as a lump sum withdrawal, doesn't matter if you're receiving it as regular payments. Age 60, no tax on anything you take out of your super. But getting to your preservation age is just one part of the equation. Once you've met your preservation age, you also need to meet what they call a condition of release. So probably the most common condition of release that people know is permanent retirement. I've hit my preservation age, I'm declaring retirement, I'm never going to go back to work. But there's another really interesting condition of release. Age 60 and leaving employment, or ceasing a work arrangement after age 60. So if you're over age 60 and you finish up with one employer, that actually opens up your whole balance for you. It's all available for you, and because you're over age 60, there's no tax on it. Doesn't matter if you go back to work, doesn't matter if you finish up with one employer on a Friday, start with another one on a Monday. It's the fact that you have ceased a work arrangement after age 60. That actually opens up your super for you, a whole bunch of opportunities. There's probably the ultimate release condition, age 65. Once you get to age 65, all of your super's available for you, whether you're working or not. You don't actually have to declare retirement or cease a work arrangement. Hit age 65, your super's available. I will just say for members who are in a defined benefit account, slightly different rules. I know we've got a couple in the room, I can see. If you're in a defined benefit account, please have that conversation with us. But generally speaking, once you get to age 65, you can access your super whether you're working or not. And another really interesting release condition, again, a few questions about this, particularly came through from online, about commencing a transition to retirement pension account. So once you hit age 60, even if you're still working, you can potentially access up to 10% of your balance in a financial year. And because you're over age 60, there's no tax on it, and it doesn't count towards your taxable income. So what is a transition to retirement account? Basically, it's like a pension account that you set up when you are retired, but it's because you're still working, there's some restrictions on it. One of probably the main one being that it's a maximum of 10% of your balance that you can access in a financial year. And the other one is that you can't take additional lump sum withdrawals from a transition to retirement account. But why would people set up one of these transition to retirement accounts? Well, as the name would suggest, to transition to retirement. You might look at going down to 4 days a week, 3 days a week. You're going to have a bit of a drop in your take-home pay if you're working less. You can set up one of these pension accounts, start drawing, say, a fortnightly or a monthly payment. You're not paying any tax on it. It's not counting as taxable income. and you can use that to top up your take-home pay so that you're not too out of pocket by working less. Reducing debt, again, plenty of questions about this. There were some great questions, I have to say, folks, coming through in the pre-submitted questions. But reducing debt, we were talking about people at retirement, that comfortable figure owning their own home. For a lot of people, it's really important to them that they enter retirement debt-free. Particularly when interest rates started going up a few years ago, we were having a lot of people contacting us asking about, can I start to access my super to pay down my mortgage? Whether that's the right thing to do, definitely something you want to get advice around, but there can be that psychological aspect of entering retirement debt-free. Increase super contributions and reduce your tax paid. I'll only touch on this one briefly because it's definitely something you want to get advice about. But do you remember when we were looking at that $30,000 cap? One of the type of contributions we mentioned was making a tax-deductible contribution. Someone may be able to set up a transition to retirement account, receive a payment, contribute it into their super, claim a tax deduction. Again, I will stress, if this is something that interests you, you definitely want to be speaking to an advisor. But it's just another example of knowing what the rules are, how you can use them, and getting the right advice can put you in a stronger position. And that 10%, I mentioned that people may set it up to receive a fortnightly or a monthly payment. You don't have to receive it as a fortnightly or monthly payment. You can actually receive it as an annual payment. So it's a bit of a way for people, once they've hit their preservation age, but they're still working, to potentially access up to 10% of their balance in a financial year. And that's per financial year. We might have some members who set it up to get their payment on June, and then when we click over to July, the new financial year, they get another 10% payment. I'll always say that if you are going to be accessing your super before you have retired, please do it with a purpose in mind. Have a strategy. Make sure that by doing that, it's going to put you in a stronger position because you are accessing money that will not be there when you retire. So how do we set up a transition to retirement pension account? Well, it's really easy. And you can actually do it online. If you log on, even if you're just interested in it, jump online, the member online, down the left-hand side, one of the options you'll see there is open a pension account. Great thing about opening the pension accounts online, it saves your progress, so you can sort of do a couple of steps, go away, come back, do a couple more. You've got 30 days to finish the application from when you started. But it's, I think, a lot easier opening a pension account online than it is using the paper form and having to send that in. To open a transition to retirement pension account, you choose how much you want to put in the pension account. So the minimum is $20,000. You choose the investment options. When your money's in a pension account, be it a transition to retirement pension account or a more regular retirement pension account, your money is still invested. It's still there working for you. And we've got the same investment options that you can choose as your accumulation account. Select the payment amount. So I mentioned that there's that 10% maximum, but there is also a minimum amount. If you set up a pension account, you are required to take a minimum. So for anyone up to age 65, the minimum that you have to take in a year is 4% of the balance. Maximum you can take is 10%. You can take anywhere between there, but just always keep in mind, if you do set up one of these pension accounts, you are required to take a payment. And then choose your payment frequency, fortnightly, monthly, quarterly, 6-monthly, annually. You can actually change it. We have some people set it up as monthly and then decide they want to go down to fortnightly. You can change that online. The same as the amount. If you're taking 6% and you think that's too much, you can drop it down to that 4%. You can manage it all online. It's a great way to look after your pension accounts. Actually, we've got a case study here, and this is a conversation, again, that I will have on a week, almost daily basis, but definitely a weekly basis. We've got Tom, age 60, been working for 40 years. He's definitely ready to start transitioning to retirement. Works 5 days a week, $70,000 a year before tax, clears about $56,000 a year. He wants to drop it down, maybe about 3 days a week. Has a chat to the boss, gets some advice from Brighter Super, and he puts $180,000 into a transition to retirement account. Draws down the 10%, $18,000. Now, because he's working 3 days a week, $42,000 a year before tax, his take-home pay reduces to about $38,000. But he's topping it up with that $18,000 from his superannuation. Because he's over age 60, there's no tax on it. So he's working 3 days a week, and he's pretty much pulling the same take-home pay as when he was working 5 days a week. Transitioning to retirement, a really good way to dip your toe into life after work. See how you feel about it. Start to ease into it a little bit. Again, if you're wanting to talk about setting up a transition to retirement account, definitely something our advisors can help you with. What about if you don't want to transition to retirement? You are ready to go. You think, Pete, what are you trying to talk me into prolonging it? I'm ready to go now. How can I set up a pension account? Well, a pension account is essentially the same as the transition to retirement account, but because you've met those conditions of release, they're a lot more flexible. There's a lot more things you can do with them. When you do cease work, you don't have to set up a pension account. This is something that people always ask us. Do I have to take money out of my super? No, you can finish work and you can leave your money in the accumulation account. I've got members who have got outside interest and they've never touched their accumulation accounts, just sat there, stayed there, invested. So you can leave your money in the accumulation account. It's still invested, it's still earning, you're getting the returns added onto your balance. But an interesting point, folks, we were talking about after age 60, there's no tax on anything you take out of your super. Well, it doesn't matter how old you are, you could be 18, you could be 100. If you have your money in an accumulation account, you do pay tax on the investment earnings. The fund does it on your behalf. We do it on a fund level. But people who have money in an accumulation account, you're paying 15% tax on the investment earnings. So when you see your financial year-to-date returns on your member online or you get your statement, you see your return there, that's actually after the government's taken their 15% cut of your investment returns. Once you've met those conditions of release and your money's in the accumulation account, you can take a lump sum whenever you like. Lump sum, tax-free, jump online, processed and paid into your bank account for you to do what you like. But most people will look at setting up a pension account. I mean, at the end of the day, that is, the purpose of superannuation is to provide income in retirement. So people might move it into a pension account. Now, at the moment, there is a maximum amount that you can move into a pension account, $2 million per person at the moment. So pretty generous thresholds, up to $4 million between a couple. Like an accumulation account, your pension account is still invested for you. So while you're drawing that retirement income, it is still invested, it is still earning, but a really important point. When your money's in the pension account, you're retired, there's no tax on investment earnings. So you're not paying that 15% tax. So not only is the money that you're taking out of superannuation tax-free, it's not being counted as taxable income, you're not even paying tax on the investment earnings. You've also got access to your lump sum withdrawals. We're already making regular payments to you. We've verified your ID when you set up the pension account. We've already got your bank account details. Withdrawals, processed and paid, bang, into your bank account. Same as a transition to retirement account. If you do set up a pension account, there is that minimum payment that you do have to take. So, like we said, anyone up to age 65, it's that 4%. Once we cross over into a new financial year, we have a look at what your balance is on the 1st of July, calculate that 4%. That's the amount that you do have to draw as a minimum over that financial year. Most people I talk to draw more than that minimum. But talking about that no tax on investment earnings, if you're not shifting 15% of your investment returns off down to Canberra, that's more going back onto your account. And what we can see here, average return over the last 5 years, this was to the 30th of June this year, so they're still quite recent figures, but the difference between an accumulation account in the balanced option and a pension account in the balanced option, an average of an extra 1% per annum over those 5 years. 1% may not sound like a lot, but do the sums. Get your notepad out, get the pen, work out what that 1% of your balance would be in 1 year, and then expand that out over 10, 15, 20, 25, 30 years that you might be drawing on your super. Tens, if not hundreds of thousands of dollars that may be going back onto your account rather than going into tax. Setting up a pension account, again, we've been through this. It's all pretty simple. Choose how much it is that you're wanting to move across. Keeping in mind there's that cap. Choose your investment option, tax-free investment earnings. Choose the amount equal to or above the minimum. And then choose your payment frequency. Once you've met those conditions of release, as well as your, say, fortnightly or monthly payments, you can take those additional lump sum payments whenever you like. Just a note on the investment options. it can be a daunting task choosing where your funds are going to be invested when you are retired. So Brighter Super has actually got a new pension product where we look after the investment strategy for you, and it's what we call the Retire Easy pension account. Very similar to the regular pension accounts. Probably the biggest difference is we choose the investment strategy. So the investment strategy with the Retire Easy, it's commonly become known as the bucket strategy. So what we do is look at 2 years of the income you're going to draw out. We put that 2 years worth of income into cash, and that's where we make the payments out of. So if there is any sort of short-term volatility, you know the money that you're taking out of your super, the units that you're selling to turn into cash to pay into your bank account, are coming out of an option that has maybe not been impacted by that volatility. But cash, yeah, you get some okay returns, I guess, in cash at the moment. I think in a pension account last year was about 4.95%, but the 10-year average is only about 2.4%. So generally, people may need to have some of their super invested in an option that is going to provide a bit of a higher return. Pardon me, sorry folks, I've been talking to people all day. We've got that 2 years in cash. What about the remainder of it? Well, we put 50% of it in the balanced option and 50% of it in the growth option. And then every year we rebalance it. We top up that cash component so you've got that 2 years worth of income sitting there in cash to see you through any short-term volatility. As I've said many times in this presentation, everybody's circumstances are different. So if you're wanting to find out, what is the best way to set up a pension account, the best investment strategy, this is where you would want to be speaking to one of our financial advisors for maybe some of that more comprehensive advice. In fact, we've got one of our advisors here tonight, Gabby, sitting down the front here, helped so many of our members set up these pension accounts, find the right investment strategy, find the right investment amount. If you are wanting to take that step around setting up a pension account, no one better to speak to than Gab. Now, I did mention there is that minimum amount that you have to draw out. There's got to be a catch. I move my money into this tax-free space. The trade-off being you do have to draw an amount. And we can see from here, the older you get, it actually increases. So from 65 to 74, it goes up to 5% of your balance. 74 to 79 goes up to 6%, keeps going up. Take a look if you're lucky enough to make it to age 95, 14% of your balance. So definitely my recommendation was make sure you get out there and spend it. You've worked long and hard to build up your super balances. You really do want to enjoy it. So just to, I suppose, recap on those options once you do cease work. Can always leave your funds in an accumulation account. There's no requirement to draw down funds while it's in an accumulation account. You are paying 15% tax on the investment earnings, but there's no tax on anything that you're drawing out. Pension account, there is a minimum amount that you do have to take out, but you're not paying any tax on the investment earnings. It's not being counted as taxable income. Choice of the payment frequency, lump sum amounts are available. You don't have to move everything into a pension account. In fact, there's some very valid reasons, particularly if you've got advice around why you may not want to move everything into a pension account. But the thing that you want to do is all the way back to the start of this presentation, or this part of the presentation, think about what is the income I'm going to need in retirement. I said once you've got an idea of what the income you need is, we can start working backwards to figure out how much of a balance you might need, how it might need to be invested. That's why it's so vitally important. Once you start, planning your retirement, you start thinking in terms of income. Brighter Super's retirement reward, a fantastic innovation. Again, thanks to Sean and the team. Talking about that 15% tax on the accumulation account. So we withhold that pretty much daily so that we've got the money to pay the ATO when they come asking for that. But what if you move from your accumulation account to a pension account? We actually get a portion of the tax that's been withheld on this. It's a bit of a mouthful, but the tax that's been withheld on the sale of growth assets, we actually get that back to the members. We don't have to pay it to the ATO anymore. And you can see here, depending on how much you open your balance up with, it can be thousands of dollars. If you do want to find some more information about the retirement reward and how we calculate it, if you just search that on our website, top right-hand corner, there's the search bar, type in retirement reward, It depends on what the investment option was before you moved into a pension account, how much you're opening out with. If you are in a defined benefit account, there's some different rules around how it's calculated. But again, it goes back to what Sean was saying. A profit for members fund, not for profit, a member-owned fund. We're here for you guys. We're acutely aware that it's your money that we're managing. So something like the retirement reward is a demonstration of what we're trying to do to get as much back into your pockets for your retirement. Support and guidance available. I won't spend too much time on this, but for a lot of people, getting some sort of part pension is part of their retirement plan, particularly if you're not too far away from, say, that age 67. Can be worth it. Getting advice around maximising Centrelink benefits. Great reason to get advice. There's all sorts of strategies. You may think that your superannuation balance or your asset is too high to receive the age pension. There are strategies around minimising your assets test. And you only need to be getting a small age pension to qualify things like the concession cards. That's what most people want when I'm talking to them. Not people, they wouldn't mind the age pension, but a lot of people want to get the healthcare card. Get the PBS, get those rebates, get more chance of bulk billing. As we showed there in that advice slide, maximising Centrelink benefits is something that we can help you with. Sean mentioned our webinars as well. I love our webinars. I'm actually presenting one of the webinars tomorrow, and I'm doing the transition to retirement with an income stream account, where we're kind of expanding on what we talked about with the accounts here. Next Thursday, I think that is, the 30th of October. But we're always running webinars. And the great thing about the webinars, if you sign up for a webinar, if you're not able to watch it live, we'll actually get a recording of it to you in a couple of days. So you can actually watch it at your leisure, or if you're like me and it takes a couple of times for something to sink in, you can re-watch it and get those points. So really please, visit our webinar page on the website. Register for any of these topics that you think are relevant. They are packed full of great information. And then the timeline. This is actually probably, probably one of those questions that I'm out all the time. At what stage do I need advice, or when should I be talking to the fund? Well, I'd be saying talk to the fund regularly. You can do that through what we call a super health check. So this is another thing that's part of your membership. Having a super health check is talking to a super specialist like myself, like Silas down the front, Gemma up the back there. And this is where they can actually spend some time going over your contributions, your investment options, your beneficiaries, your insurance. Make sure you're registered for your member online. That is part of your membership. It doesn't cost you any extra. In fact, if you do want to register for a super health check now, for the people online, you can actually do it through there. We've got the QR codes on the table, and we've even got Gemma up the back there at the table. She's got a booking page open, can book you in for a super health check straight away. Like I said, it's part of your membership. All it's going to cost you is your time, and I'd be pretty sure that you're going to walk away from there with better knowledge than when you went into it. The other thing is your superannuation advice. I've already touched on this. Advice around your contributions, advice around your investment options, advice around your insurance. It is all part of your membership. We're more than willing to talk about it. If you're going to happy to spend the time to speak to us, we really want to get that advice to you. The retirement health check. As I said, if you're, say, 50 plus, you're starting to think about retirement, part of your membership. It's not costing you any extra. It's really, it took me a while to sort of reconcile it in my brain. Brighter Super, you're getting more for less. How often does that happen? But if you want to book in for a retirement health check, Gemma can get you booked into one of those as well. We've got access to the advisor's calendar. But if you're really serious about your retirement planning, the retirement advice, that comprehensive advice, as I say, on a pretty much daily basis, I see the difference and what the benefits the member get from receiving qualified personal advice, from getting one of those statements of advice. So folks, a lot of information there in a pretty short period of time. If you've kept up, you've done very well. All this information you can find, or a lot of this information you can find on the retirement guide on your table. So please take that home. Have a bit of a chat to your partner if you have one about what your retirement looks like for you, and start that planning. Review if you're on track. Book a retirement health check, book a super health check, use one of our calculators, see where you're standing in relation to what your retirement looks like for you. have a chat to us about your contributions. Most people have had their EBAs come through. We're in the new financial year. You've got plenty left in that hopefully in that 30,000 concessional contribution cap. Get some advice that's part of your membership around increasing your contributions. And then really start to think about, okay, well, once I do cease work, what's the income that I'm going to need from my superannuation? As I said right at the beginning, when I'm talking to people, what they say they want out of their retirement, they want to maintain their lifestyle, they want to maintain their independence, and they want to maintain their dignity. With Brighter Super and the right advice, we can help you do all three. Thanks a lot for coming tonight, guys.
Thanks, Pete. How good was that? As I said at the start, we all worry about our superannuation. We're heading to retirement. There are always answers and there are always strategies for you. Look, when Brighter asked me to get involved with them and do some work on the financial literacy side, I originally said no because I've been really highly critical of superannuation funds in the past when I was at Sunrise and with my finance nerd hat on. Superannuation, compulsory superannuation, I reckon is the greatest piece of public policy in our generation. Compulsory superannuation has just underpinned our economy for decades. $4.5 trillion in retirement savings. It's underpinned our, as I say, our AAA credit rating for so long, a national savings scheme. The average Australian is one of the richest in the world because not only of their house, but their superannuation. My issue with compulsory superannuation is some of the mega superannuation funds, I think, have got too big and lost the link and the connection with their members and what they're all about. They're about looking after your money as individuals. And some of these massive superannuation funds, I think, have lost sight of that. They've become big financial institutions. So when Brighter said, hey, can you come and do some stuff for us? I said no, because I've been critical. And they said, well, have a look at what we do. And the fact that you have Pete on tap, you have Gabby on tap, you have Silas on tap, Gemma up the back. Very few big super funds have their own internal advice teams. Very few super funds do sessions like this. I do about 30 around Queensland a year for Brighter Super, and so often the spouses of members come along and go, my super fund does nothing like this. Gets out and talks to members and showcases what they're doing. So look, take advantage of it. As Pete said, it's all part of being a member of Brighter Super, and it just takes the stress away from retirement. And that's the last thing you want in retirement is financial stress. So you've got all the financial gurus like Gabby and Silas and Pete available to you. I want to talk about my experience, what I've found. The 5 ways to retire well, getting away from the financial side, because retirement is not just about finances, it's about you and how you cope with it. We all have this wonderful premonition of retirement and going, oh, you beauty, I can sleep in, I can do whatever I like, I don't have a boss involved, and life's free. And usually, from my experience, and sort of I'm transitioning to retirement, if you like, a little bit older than most people retire as I transition, and have lots of mates who are retiring. Can I say first up, fellas, we're the worst at it. Ladies, you're the best at it in terms of coping with retirement. It's all about having a plan, because you've spent a significant amount of your life working in a structure with a social network around you at work. When that goes away, after the honeymoon finishes of retirement, which is usually 6 months in, you've done your big trip, you've done your lap of the map, you get home and you go, what the hell am I going to do? It's a bit like when I retired from Sunrise. For 21 years, I would go to bed at 7:30, try and be asleep by 8 o'clock, have a sleep routine, get up at 3 the next morning. And so I finished sunrise, and Lib and I are watching TV about 8 o'clock, and I'm going, what is this crap we're watching? And she goes, will you go back to bed? You know, this is the 3rd season of this show I've been watching. I love it. And for 21 years, I've controlled this remote. After 7:30, 8 o'clock, don't you come and bugger it up. It's little things like that that you've got to adjust. And in a relationship, it can be really tough. So retirement can be positive and also have negative effects. But you've got to have a plan. Think about it now of what you're going to do. And it involves a lot of things. And first of all, get the timing right. Make sure the timing is right for you. One thing that has annoyed me is my cohort of mates who've all retired telling me how I should retire. You know, they've retired. A lot of them went cold turkey. A lot transitioned to retirement. Others retired and then took on a side hustle or whatever. And they would constantly justify their decision by saying, I must follow it. I actually like doing things like this. I like meeting people. I'm curious about people. I like talking about superannuation and money and small business and things like that. So I'm not sure I'll ever stop doing this sort of thing. And they can't believe it. And I have to say to them, hey, you know, the right retirement for you is very different to the right retirement for me. It is choose the retirement that you want and consider phasing into it. Now, you've got some great strategies from Pete there saying, you know, you can cut back to 3 days a week or 2 days a week, go on the transition to retirement pension, make up your income along the way, so you ease yourself into it. It's a bit like, in footy terms, it's a bit like pre-season retirement. You know, you ease yourself into it and get used to it. It can help you adjust to the lifestyle both physically and mentally. Bottom line is, it's a personal choice when you retire. If you love what you're doing, you know, keep being involved and just build more flexibility. I was doing a session for Gold Coast Council staff this morning, and one of the ladies there was saying, I hate the word retirement. It's my new lifestyle, she calls it, because her lifestyle involves a bit of work and a bit of a side hustle and building flexibility. Lib and I see it as building flexibility into your life. The second thing is find a purpose in retirement as well. Otherwise, you're just going to sit around and get on each other's nerves and bore yourself. Or just become moribund and not know what to do. I was speaking to a group up in Rockhampton a couple of months ago, and this couple came to us and said, you know, having a physical routine, a gym routine, really helped build a process into our life and a structure into our day, whereas their brother-in-law and his partner didn't have a plan. And I said, you know, and we're not wowsers, but they just sit around. They get on the wines from 12 o'clock, and they can see their health deteriorate because they haven't built a process into their life. In a working life, you have a process, you get used to it. It's a structure in your day. You've got to build that structure into your day in retirement as well. So explore new opportunities. Do that degree that you wanted to do, or take up that language. Volunteer. Harvard, the big business school in the US, has done the biggest study on happiness ever. You could go online and read this. It's been going for 50 years. They started out with 5,000 people, have been tracking them. They're down to about 2,500 now of different age groups. But finding out what makes people happy at different stages of life. And volunteering, giving back, helping somebody else is one of the key foundations of making yourself happy by having a purpose to help others. So in retirement, start thinking about organisations, the lead up to retirement, who you might want to be involved with. I've got a brother-in-law, great golfer. His identity went from working to improving his golf. He's now on single-figure handicap, plays 3 days a week. I hate golf. I can't understand. I'm a bit weird. Why? I find it incredibly frustrating. He loves it. That's his retirement. Lib and I have a youth centre in Macquarie Fields in Sydney. And part of the programs, and it's to help disadvantaged kids from broken homes, all that sort of stuff. And one of the programs we offer is a Learn to Drive program. Because if you come from a dysfunctional family and you're a 17-year-old, how do you get your 100 hours up to get your P's? You know, family may not be able to afford a car, or parents not afford the time. So we have a group of volunteers, including my brother-in-law Chris, who spends the 100 hours with these kids. And you know, when you've taught your own kids, when you're in a car and you're looking straight ahead, is always the best time to have conversations with teenagers, because you're close together, you're spending a lot of time. He's become almost a mentor to these kids, and it's been great for them and has changed his life. He's had a purpose apart from his golf. So think about that, building a purpose, because that adds to your identity as well. And you know, everyone says, "Oh, what do you do?" And you'll find this when you retire. I'm retired, and then the conversation can stop. You say, "I'm retired, but you know, I'm volunteer here and I'm involved here," and that sort of stuff. It's really good for it. Physically, you've got to look after your body in retirement as well. Build daily routines into your life. The incidental physical activity at work, you then have to replace. And that's becoming getting together a really physical regime in terms of walking, cardio, resistance training, which also affects mental health as well. So keep physical activities up, and you know, unlike the scenario I mentioned before, if you become a bit moribund and just sit around and do nothing, you then start to deteriorate. Rebuild your brain. A lot of people do Sudoku or crosswords or whatever. All of the studies show that social interaction is the best thing for your brain. Connecting with younger generations. So with grandkids, you know, go to a Taylor Swift concert with them. Don't become the grumpy old retiree that goes, "Oh, Taylor Swift," not like music in my old days. It is just as good. Connect with them. Also, learn new skills. AI. You know, dabble in AI. AI is going to take over the world. It is going to be extraordinary. Have fun with it. Go on ChatGPT. Earlier this year, we all travel. We've got 9 grandchildren, 4 children. 20 of us travel together every second year. We do a big family holiday together. They're scattered all around the place. And our 3 youngest grandchildren are these cute little girls, all under 4. And we've got a great photo of the 4 of them on our last holiday together at the beach. So I took that photo, put it in ChatGPT and said, "Can you put these 4 little girls into a scene out of Bluey?" So ChatGPT animated them, put Bluey and Bingo in with them. Well, I was king of the kids. You know, Poppy's been able to, all just through AI, fiddling around with it, learning it, take an interest in technology and the new generation coming up, be curious and connect, and that is the best way, all the studies show, in terms of maintaining brain health and those cognitive factors. And you know, stay connected, as I said, really important. You've got your work cohort of friends at work that have sustained you. Yes, you will keep connected generally. The experience is for about 6 or 12 months later. And then those connections start to waver a bit as you're in a different stage of your life. So build retirement type social networks. It may be through the interest that you've taken up, because that is a great support within retirement to make you cope as well. So they're the 5 things that I've come across that really do help your retirement. I probably should finish on don't get sucked into the bank of mum and dad. Adult kids, I don't know about your adult kids, but my adult kids are a lot more opinionated and pushy than I remember me being to my father at that age. Bank of mum and dad, we love our kids, want to give them a helping hand, understand they will retire on multiples more than you will retire on when they get to our age. So when they say, oh, geez, you've got so much money in your superannuation, retirement, things like that, just explain to them that, like in my case, when compulsory superannuation came in about 15 years after I started work, came in at a piddly 3%, which stayed there for a couple of decades, and then 4%. Now it's 12%, and just say, hey, you're going to retire on a whole lot more than I am. We love our kids, we want to support them. Bank of mum and dad should act as a bank when necessary, but it shouldn't affect your retirement and your retirement lifestyle, is my view. The best thing you can give your kids is a stable family relationship and a great education, and then they should be on their own. But always be there as the safety net. I have a view that we adopt in our household. We don't give money to any of our adult kids who are all married. We will lend them money, and if it's up to us to forgive that loan sometime in the future, it's up to us. But the initial thing is a loan. They're all happily married with great relationships. You never know what happens in a relationship, and I'll be blowed if I'm going to give a kid some money and have a spouse walk away with half of it. So that's just me. I'd rather them walk away with half a liability than half an asset. So be the bank of mum and dad, treat it as a bank, put it in writing, say, hey, I expect it to be repaid, here's the interest of it, and it's up to you if you want to get it back to help your retirement, because you don't know how long you're going to live. My uncle died last month at 101. My mum is 92. I'm going to have to keep working for a long time, because my retirement, if I've got their genes, is a hell of a long time. So they're just my thoughts on retirement. The financial side, talk to the financial advisors. But let's now talk about investing and bring up Mark Ryder, the Chief Investment Officer of Brighter Super. Mark, how are you, mate? What an investment market, for you to be involved in at the moment. Just explain the cause of all the volatility at the moment in investment markets.
When you look at the last year or so, I think the volatility can be generally put down to what's been happening in the United States. I think we've got a new US administration there. They've got some very different policies. And the one which I'll probably talk a little bit more on it soon is about tariffs and about how that's driven volatility. That volatility has been both up and down. Markets have gone up, as you'll see, over the period of time. But there's a lot more there than just those policies. There are other policies which could be immigration and the like, which maybe they'll take a little while to work through the system. But really, it's probably the dramatic changes, the volatility of the flip-flop, which we've seen as well, and that's really been the thing driving share markets and other markets around the world.
Will it settle down? Polish your crystal ball.
Look, I was in the US in February and into early March, and which was really at sort of the president was really starting to get underway with his policies. It was quite chaotic, because I'd go into a meeting and someone would say, "Oh, look, okay, there's tariffs being put on Canada and Mexico," and you walk out, no, it's not there on Mexico any longer, but Canada's got it because they annoyed the president by doing something. So I think the that sort of chaotic flip-flopping has changed. But when you look at what's been going on, there has been, the idea was we're going to negotiate with all the countries around the world and come to an agreement on tariffs. Well, there haven't been many agreements. The US just imposed tariffs, and the biggest one, which is still outstanding, where there's still a bit of uncertainty, is around China. So while probably the chaotic within a day, within a week type of changes aren't there, what you've still got, I think, very significant changes to come through, and the big trade deal with China is yet to be landed.
Okay. At least he likes us, by the sound of it. It was a good sort of meeting with Albanese at the start of the week. But all this volatility spooks all of us. When you have media headlines going, market crashes, trillions off, all that sort of stuff, you think about your super. How does that volatility affect your super returns?
If you think of your super portfolio, quite a few of you might be in the MySuper Fund. Now, the MySuper Fund is made up of 32% international shares, 24% Australian shares. Then there's another 11% in or thereabouts in terms of infrastructure, another 6-7% in property. You've got bonds. All of those things are moving. Share markets, they're listed, they're traded every day. So they're moving, they're reacting to all of these policy changes. Some of the other assets, like property and infrastructure, they may be listed, but they actually may also be unlisted, like shopping centres, where they trade less frequently, but they over a run of months, they actually do trade similar. And all of these things are getting impacted by announcements about what's going on in terms of economic growth, in terms of inflation, in terms of interest rates. And so your portfolio, your fund is made up of these. So if the share market is going up, you're doing well. If the share market's going down, you're probably not doing as well. But shares aren't the only thing, because one of the key things is to diversify the portfolio, which we do. And depending upon what option you're in, you'll find it's not just one asset, it's a number of assets. And within that asset class, like, if you've got Australian shares, there in some cases will be hundreds of companies. So very well diversified portfolio.
And that's what you do, isn't it? You build a portfolio to take out the volatility so it can smooth the returns out. Just show us the returns of most people in the MySuper account. Just to show us how it's got.
This chart here actually shows you the return of the MySuper Fund. It starts at it's $10,000 in 30th of June 2024, and it's through to the end of the last financial year, to the 30th of June. And what you can see is in the first about 8 months of the year, it was pretty plain sailing. Between the 1st July and mid-February, there was a 9% return. That dramatic decline you can see in the chart there, around 6.5% for MySuper, was driven by those tariff changes. And particularly, if you might remember, there were some initial changes to do with steel and aluminium and very specific industries, in some cases countries like Canada and Mexico. But then when it came to Liberation Day, that's when the big drop occurred, when there were tariffs put on around the world. And that went on for about a week until it looked like the US bond market, that the US government was not going to be able to borrow any more money because interest rates started to rise, and the president was advised that, I think you need to make a bit of a change, which he did. He then reverted back to low tariffs. There's been negotiations, tariffs have gone up, but it's turned out to be a much better situation than it looked like on the 2nd of April. And as you can see then, it recovered all that ground. And by the end of the financial year, it was up about 1.7%. And if you look where things have been going now, what you can see here, and I've shaded the new financial year, you can see it's kept on moving up. So over the year to last financial year, the return was 10.9%. If you look, where are we at in September? Well, it's over the year, September's up 10.6%. So it's continued to move up. And if you look at the table, which is in the chart there, what it shows you is whereas at the end of September, where was whatever option you're in relative to the peak it had in mid-February. And as you can see there, they're all up. So that's quite it's an interesting ride. When you look at 1 year, it's quite volatile.
Okay, but superannuation's long term. So how's it gone long term?
If you look at the same chart, but you do it over a longer period, this is actually back 7 years, and I'll click it through to the end, so you've got the same period. This is going back 7 years, so it's back to 2018, and it's through to September this year.
So you've got the pandemic.
You got the pandemic. Well, what you see there is, whereas that 1 year looked very scary, it doesn't look as scary, because when you think of the investments that you make, those returns compound over time, year after year. And so what you find here is that you've got a return of over 60% over that 7 and a bit year period. Now, compare it to cash. Cash is the red line there. As you can see, it's much steadier, but it doesn't actually grow your returns as quickly. So what you actually find is almost a 50% difference over those 7 years, difference in the returns. So when we build a portfolio, the My Super Fund, it has a bit of cash, but it has bonds, it had shares. It's riskier in terms of as you can see, it goes up and down. But remember that share markets are linked to the economy. The economies tend to grow over time. Economies get bigger, and as the economy gets bigger, the profits, the earnings that those companies make, along with the salaries that people earn, actually grow as well, and that underwrites profit. So that's why share markets tend to move up over time, but they don't go in a straight line, as you can see. But to get the returns you need for your retirement, you actually need to take some risk to actually get those returns.
Yeah, and what it shows is just don't get spooked. Where were we in Rockhampton?
Yeah.
I think, and Mark showed this slide, and we opened up for questions, and there was a bloke down the front, and he goes, "I need to see a financial advisor because I got spooked and went to cash during the global financial crisis." And he saw in black. I reckon that's the most powerful chart I've seen in terms of investing. That just shows. I know it's hard because we're all emotional animals. Not to say Mark's not emotional, but he's the cool, calm head that looks after your money. And when you see these big, scary headlines, and you're wondering what's happening with your super, you go, okay. We've got a professional calm head looking after it, and that's the reason for it. Hey, we've got time for question and answers now. Will you thank Mark for the rundown of where the fund is going? Online, hopefully you've gone to Geobox, and Beck is up the back, another financial advisor. Put your hand up, Beck. She's going to shoot through the questions from online. Let's bring up Pete and Sean as well and open it up, both here IRL. See, I'm connected with the younger generation, aren't I? With our first question here, then we'll go online. Yes, sir.
Hi. Where do we see the precious metals here? Like, I don't see the precious metals in the mix.
Precious metals, you gold bug. You've been lining up outside the bullion dealers at the moment.
Look, I don't have gold on that chart. When we don't have gold as an asset class or precious metals in the portfolio, but it's in there indirectly because when you have when you're at 24% of Australian shares in the portfolio here, that actually has gold miners in it. It also has a lot of resource companies as well. So a lot of the time, people want to have commodities, maybe it could be gold or precious metals in there because of the ability to protect against inflation. And one of the reasons why we haven't put a very specific asset class is gold. They put gold in, it's not very diversified. It's just one particular asset, and it's great when it's going up, but they can also go down. We try to build diversified portfolios that don't get driven too much by one particular component, because you've got a number of drivers of it.
Do you rate gold?
Look, gold's, well, you know, it's a very nice metal. It's got a long history, and it has served, you know, mankind as a store of value for a long time. But the issue, when you think of how do we build these portfolios, all the assets in there are actually like, you've got a company. A company has assets, it earns, it's got profits, and so by actually holding that asset, you're earning something through time, and it's compounding. You're not looking just at a capital gain to come through. If you've got a bond actually is paying you, or you've got a term deposit or something like that, a bill paying you interest, you're getting interest on it. And that's how we look to build the portfolios, that it's not just that the price of the thing is going to go up for a particular, it's the price may go up, but it's going up because it's underpinned by the earnings. Gold's a bit different. There are real uses to it, and it is underpinned by that as part of the demand, but it's also because it's precious. It's actually used and for a long time has been used as a store of value.
Great for our economy. It's currently our second biggest export out of Australia. We're one of the biggest gold miners and biggest exporters in the world. So we're all benefiting from the economy. But I've been doing some commentary on gold over the last week with all the queues outside, and I'm old enough and Mark's old enough to remember the gold booms and busts that inevitably follow. And when I see a line outside a bullion broker, I can't help but think, is this the bell at the top of the market? Could be completely wrong, but you've just got to keep in mind that at these levels, the risk of getting in now, if you've been in, fantastic. Getting in as a new investor, it's much higher risk now than it was a year or two ago. Next question. Beck, have you got one online?
Look, we did such a good job up there moderating. We don't have any.
No, none online.
No, we did have some, but we
Come on, get off the wines, will you, at home? And put your questions in. Just don't put your feet up and
We did
drink
have
your
some-
Shiraz or...
We had some great questions around the retirement health check.
Right.
And how do I access a retirement health check? Maybe a reminder.
Yeah.
That one, Pete, on how people get a retirement health check.
Absolutely. Best ways to get in contact with the fund. We have access to the advisors' calendars. They're running them pretty much every day, multiple advisors doing multiple spots during the day. Anyone who wants to do it tonight, we can actually book you in with Gemma just over in the corner there.
So that's free, is it? And
It's
what
part
do
of your membership. yeah.
Membership. So what do you go through?
That's where they'll actually run through with you what it is that you're looking to get. Actually, we've got someone who does retirement health checks right here. Gabby, would you like to
Gab,
let the audience know?
What do you run through? What's the process?
Well, it's basically doing a calculation of whether you're on track or off track to your retirement goals. So we want to find out about you and your partner, how much you're earning, how much you're putting into superannuation, what other assets you may have, any lump sum expenses you've got coming up. You know, maybe you still need to pay out the mortgage when you get to retirement. And basically, at the end of the appointment, we'll be able to say, look, you're on track to retirement or you're off track. And of course, what it gives us the opportunity to do is to talk to you about bridging that gap. So if you're off track, what can we do to start addressing that? Which might mean we want to book in for another appointment as a follow-up.
Yeah, and you bring up that if you've got kids overseas and you want to build 2 trips a year and to see your grandkids, all that goes into it, doesn't it?
I really love to do holidays as an extra add-on because, Pete was talking about the comfortable lifestyle standard for a couple. If you look at the breakdown, it includes about $6,000 a year in holidays. So I don't know about you, I was planning on doing a little bit more than that, especially in those first few years of retirement. So,
But that's the beauty of it. You do your own budget, it's for you, and then your retirement strategies are tailored to make sure it can deliver the retirement you want. Yes, ma'am.
Thank you. Thanks. Just a generic question, I suppose any of you might like to answer this. I'm seeing an increasing trend in my circle of friends against the majority, I suppose, of people who have got families and beneficiaries and all that sort of stuff, of people who are single, without beneficiaries, still looking towards retiring with a substantial mortgage on their home. And I'm just interested in any strategies that you might like to generalise, obviously not personal advice, along that line.
Pete?
Sure. Simple answer is it does come down to the individual. There is that psychological aspect of owning a home. I mean, that's always been the great Aussie dream, owning your own home, and particularly in retirement, entering retirement without any debt hanging over you is attractive to a lot of people. There's also the savings. I mentioned earlier that additional as for retirement standard for people who were renters, and that was a modest lifestyle, but almost the same income needed for the comfortable lifestyle for someone who does own their own home. Definitely more people are entering retirement with mortgages and things like that. Being that you can draw an income from your superannuation, figuring out whether you do want to take that either lump sum and pay off that mortgage earlier, or you may be comfortable in keeping a mortgage and paying it off from the income stream, type of thing Gab and her team work on. Because that's the value of personal advice. Personal advice is called personal advice because it takes your personal circumstances into account. When you sit down with the advisor, they're not going to say, David is a plan B2 and pull that out of the pigeonhole and just fill in the blanks. Every statement of advice they write is tailored to the individual. So as far as would you want to enter retirement with a mortgage, it would come down to your personal preferences.
My 101-year-old uncle that I mentioned that just died the other month, he rented most of his life. And he was chairman of Westpac for a while, sat on the beach, so knew his stuff, but that's just his lifestyle. He had big superannuation fund, shares, mixture, but that's what Pete was saying. Your retirement is very different to anyone else, and a retirement health check, so you can direct it on what makes you happy and good. The other big thing, reminder, Pete, your beneficiary form that you've got to fill in. It's getting a lot higher, the number of members who have signed their designated beneficiary form. That if your car could fall off a cliff, where does your superannuation go? It doesn't necessarily, unless you direct it, go into your estate, which is a bit of a myth. You've got to tell the super fund what to do with the money.
That's right, David. And thanks for pointing that out, because another one of the improvements that Brighter Super's made over the last few years is we've now introduced what we call non-lapsing binding nominations. So I'd probably say there's a fair proportion of people in this room who have had to go through filling out a binding death nomination every 3 years, getting it witnessed by 2 people so that you keep extending that binding nomination. We now have what we call non-lapsing binding nominations. So you can actually put it on there and you don't need to renew it every 3 years. The other improvement that we've made as well is you can actually make these non-lapsing nominations online. So we've done away, well, haven't done away, but you can actually put that beneficiary nomination online. If you want, you don't have to fill out that binding death nomination form. Lord knows if I had $1 for every one of those forms I'd helped a member fill out, I would be the one retiring. It was a bit
But
of
see, a lot
nightmare
of people assume if you don't fill it in, it'll just go into your estate.
Yeah, absolutely. It's covered by different legislation. It's not automatically covered by your estate. If you want to have a say as to what happens to your superannuation when you pass away, you want to speak to Brighter Super and explore your options around beneficiary nominations, because you have to tell the fund what you want to happen with it.
Yeah. It used to be where there's a will, there's a relative. Now it's where there's superannuation, there's a relative, unless you sort it out. So go online and make sure you do it. Beck?
I've got one from online. This is from Daryl. In our portfolio, you mentioned the companies we invest in have profits. What about if they're carrying losses? How does that risk get managed?
Come on.
The way that's managed, the companies can be losing money for a short period of time. The issue is when they're losing money over a long period of time. in part of the way we manage shares in the portfolio is through active managers. Those active managers actually choose companies which they believe are going to perform very well. So that's one way we, I suppose, control part of the portfolio where there's shares and with the active management. There are also in the portfolio we actually in some cases replicate the market. So for the ASX 300, we'd have 300 companies in there. The way that you're protected against companies who are maybe in financial difficulties is it's very well spread. It's spread across a range of companies. So that's the way. Two different ways: build a portfolio from lots of stocks, so a lot of diversification, or have a more concentrated portfolio, but having one of Australia or the world's best managers actually looking after for you and being the one who's filtering out the good versus the bad.
Just run through some of the Queensland projects that all the members have their super invested in.
There's some of we've got about $1 billion in investments in Queensland,
Yep.
And that's spread across property and infrastructure. If you look at probably the largest single investment that we have is we're 50%, well, you are a 50% shareholder in Sunshine Coast Airport. So that's one of the more significant assets. So very, very important asset for this part.
Can you get a member's priority loan put in for anyone going through there?
Look, it's probably good timing to ask that question because there is a redevelopment going on in the terminal. So I will raise it with I'll raise it with the CEO, but I can't guarantee anything. but it's timely given that there's a redevelopment. So that's an example. But one of the other things, so that historically that's where that $1 billion has gone. But there's also, we've committed another $500 million to be invested into Queensland. And there's a number of different assets we've got there. We have one of our managers, Bearings, is actually looking over Queensland. We've given them a mandate for $100 million to invest into property, largely industrial property, and they've already started to invest in that. So finding good, and well-priced, cheap investments, which they say they can do a bit of work on and actually raise the value. There's that. Look, there's also, we're investing in innovative Queensland companies through Queensland Investment Corporation. So we're investing in venture capital companies, small companies who are based in Queensland. And there's also, there's the other one we've committed money to is Riparian, managing agricultural fund for us. The initial thing has been into sort of water rights, and then the other things will be into farm and into farm infrastructure. So very, very different things. All of these investments, while they're going to Queensland, they have to stack up against every investment we could do here or overseas. So we're not sort of saying we've got to invest in Queensland, but it's been great because we're finding some really good and sort of different type of investments by doing this process.
Great. Any other questions? Yes, sir.
For the question about the transition to retirement account, can you move all the funds to this account?
Okay,
Sure.
George's question for those people online and at the back, transition to a retirement account. Can you move everything into a transition to a retirement account?
People can. If you are still working and you've got contributions coming in, you do need to leave a minimum balance in an accumulation account. All contributions have to come into an accumulation account, can't have them go into a transition to retirement account or a pension account. So one of the options when you're setting up the pension account, full balance across, leaving that $8,000 is the minimum amount to leave in an accumulation account at the moment. With a pension account, definitely be aware of that $2 million, what they call transfer balance cap, how much you can move into a retirement pension account.
And can you open this account when you work full time, or do you have to reduce your...
Absolutely. Once you've reached your preservation age, that's when you can look at opening a transition to retirement pension account. Generally speaking, most people would have a preservation of age 60 now, but generally most people would wait until after age 60 so that they're not paying tax on the money that they're taking from super.
Other crowd?
Yeah, we'll
Yes,
just,
sir. Hang on. Gab will come over with a microphone just so people online can hear. Yes, mate.
Hi there. I was just wondering why crypto has been excluded from any of the investment options, even a small amount,
Yeah.
percentage.
With all our investments, I suppose there are two things where we're looking for them to have before we make the investment. One is actually to be able to work out what it's worth. Is crypto worth $50,000, $100,000? When we look at a company, and while it's not, there's no it's still an art, and it's not scientific. But the thing is, a company's earning profits. You can make an estimate of what it's worth. But at the moment, crypto, I don't know what it's worth. So whether it should be worth $300,000 or worth $1, clearly there's people out there saying they think it's worth a lot more, but it's not the value. It's more speculative. It's not fundamentally. It doesn't have fundamental value from our perspective, and therefore we don't believe it's the type of asset to put into your retirement. Even a small amount. Like we could put a small amount. It has very little impact. Why would we do it? Because it might just, why don't we focus on investments we can make, it could be larger and more significant for the portfolio. And the other thing as well is it's also about, does it do things differently? Does it bring diversification to the portfolio? One of the things it was meant to do was to be be different in tough times, perform different at share markets. All it does is actually, it just has probably 4 times the volatility. It goes up and it comes down. But for me, the most important thing is that, as far as I'm concerned, I don't know what it's worth, and therefore I'm not going to put it in there, because whether I should be selling it or buying it, I don't know. And that's because it doesn't have fundamental value. By all means, outside of superannuation, people are going to have a punt, but that's what I see it is. It's not actually something I think's worth that. I'm not confident putting it in portfolios because of that reason. I don't know what it's worth.
I have this discussion with my adult kids all the time, and I say I'm pretty old-fashioned. I sort of follow the Warren Buffett principles of investing, which is, do you understand the investment? Do you know who's behind it? Does it have a worth going forward? And I put these things to my adult kids, and I go, well, what is it? How's it produced? Well, it's supercomputers. Solving complex algorithms, mine's a Bitcoin. I said, okay, yep. What does it do? Well, they're I said, I know the words, but what does it actually mean? And they go, oh, no, it's supercomputers solving. I said, I know, but I have no idea what those words mean to actually produce something to invest in. And we have great discussions on it. Any other questions?
otherwise, I do have another, and maybe the final one.
All right,
as well
online
for the
question,
night.
Beck.
All right, here we go. Sarah has asked, what are the benefits of bringing a partner's super across to Brighter Super? And this is often something we get a lot of at the end of a session like this.
Yeah, at these sessions when people bring along their spouse and they go, oh, well, my super hasn't done quite as well and they don't have functions like this. Can I switch across? Pete?
Sure. I think definitely one of the big features is our newly introduced partner linking. So just to visit that, previously the administration fee was calculated, if you had two people, say a couple, the administration fee was calculated on each of their accounts and they were both charged that administration fee. Now for the purposes of administration fee calculation, we're able to link those accounts and the administration fee is charged on that total balance. Because we have our fee capping of $650, an amazing administration fee, if you've got someone who is close or already at that fee cap and a partner brings their funds across and links their account, they can essentially eliminate the administration fee on their account, a saving straight away. There's also the friends and family. You can use the referral code. It's $100 each if someone joins and rolls their funds over. That's pretty handy. Also provides...
So Brighter is an open fund.
Absolutely, we're an
So
open.
anyone can invest
anyone
in it,
can
your
join
kids,
Brighter Super.
whoever.
Yeah, we accept contributions from any employers, and it's a very common question after these presentations. Also allows your partner to have access things like those advice services. We had a lot of Suncorp members, Suncorp Super members come across over the last couple of years. They're amazed at the advice options that are available to them because that wasn't something that was offered to them through Suncorp Super. The ability to get advice around your contributions, your investment options, now the retirement health checks. Not every super fund offers that. If you're a member of Brighter Super, you've pretty much got that service on tap.
Right. All done? You've just squeaked in, sir. Why have you been so shy for so long? All right.
It's always one.
No.
Oh, don't be embarrassed.
No, not at all. My question's towards the end of our super. My question's regarding the beneficiaries' inheritance tax. Now, I only recently found out about this, but I'd just like to know, obviously it's to do with tax-free amounts, taxable amounts, and how is it calculated that going forward, not knowing what our balances are going to be after our deaths, how is that inheritance tax charged, and obviously the beneficiaries have to pay that? Are we able to calculate that and prepay it or anything like that?
Sure. I actually thought we were going to get through this seminar without a question about death benefit taxes because it is in every single investment, and rightly so actually. It can come as a bit of a nasty shock to people, but if you pass away and your super goes to, say, adult children, for example, it can potentially be taxed at up to 17% before it goes to them.
17.
Yeah, do the maths on that. Get out your notepad and work that out. The good news is that there are strategies to reduce or eliminate that. In fact, Gabby, that's a huge part of the advice that you provide. I'll try and keep this as simple as I can, but we mentioned that after age 60, there's no tax on anything you take out of super, but you will always have a taxable and a tax-free component. People call me all the time and say, Pete, I've just turned 60, I don't pay any tax. I've got my statement, why do I still have a taxable component? And it comes down to death benefit tax. So the tax-free component is made up of after-tax contributions. You know the contributions we mentioned that have already been taxed at your marginal tax rate before they come in? They make up the tax-free component. The taxable component is made up of employer contributions, salary sacrifice contributions, and investment earnings. You know how we said that money's only been taxed at 15% when it comes into the fund? The government basically says, we're giving you these tax breaks to help you build your super for your retirement, for you and your spouse. We're not giving you those tax breaks to use super as an estate planning tool. So if you pass away and your super goes to your spouse, they'll get it tax-free. But generally, if it goes to anyone else, we want the rest of the tax that you didn't pay when you were building your super. And that's where they come knocking for that 17%. Now, as I said, a huge reason for getting advice is there are some great strategies out there. One of them may be using a transition to retirement account for reducing or eliminating those death benefit taxes. I don't want to go into too much detail because it is complex.
But it's a great thing to tell your kids, saying we've got to live a great retirement lifestyle, because we can't leave anything because we're going to be taxed on it. That'll shut them up. And it's so complex they won't know what you're talking about. All right, I think we're all done and dusted. Look, can you thank Sean, Pete and Mark for some great presentation? Couple of things before you go, if you can help us and online as well. Love your feedback, how we can improve these sessions, what you thought of them. Online, don't forget you've got your feedback form. Click the button there online as well. QR code if you want to do it as well. Leave a Google review. Google reviews rule our life. Product review online. If you liked us, if you didn't like the session, don't worry. Also, don't forget, as Pete was saying in answer to that question, Brighter Super is an open fund, so if you've got friends and relatives that go, how come you get all this sort of stuff? Say, come and join the family as well. If you want to book in for a super health check, we've got the start of a queue up there at the moment with Gemma. Go and do it now as well. But hopefully, and take a little gift. All the people that came in today, go a lift. It's a holder for your phone when you travel, and you can watch your movies and all that sort of stuff. But hopefully you've enjoyed it. Take advantage of all the financial advisors, online resources. Thanks for coming. And if you want to talk privately with any of the advisors, you can do it over refreshments at home. Hopefully you've enjoyed it as well, and enjoying your red and your cheese and biscuits as well. We're jealous. All right, thank you for having us.